The council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Jake Morrison stood near the back wall with the other security officers, watching the chaos unfold. He had seen plenty of heated debates in his 3 years working diplomatic protection, but nothing like this. Delegates from dozens of worlds shouted at each other while High Chancellor Oryx slammed his staff against the floor, trying to restore order. Ambassador Lisa Grant sat in the human delegation section, her face calm but concerned. She glanced back at Jake, raising an eyebrow as if asking what he thought of all this mess. Jake gave a small shrug. Whatever this emergency session was about, it had every species in the galaxy on edge. Order, Oryx bellowed, his voice amplified through the chamber. We must have order. The shouting died down to angry muttering. Oryx was a tall being from a species that looked like they were carved from blue stone. He commanded respect, and slowly the delegates returned to their seats. Thank you, Oryx said. Now, as I was explaining before this descended into madness, we have a serious situation. The Zarathian peace negotiations are scheduled to begin in 10 days at Station Harmony. A reptilian delegate stood up. We all know this, Chancellor. What is the emergency? Oryx's expression darkened. The emergency is that Princess Velshara must travel to the station, and no one will transport her. The chamber erupted again. Jake frowned. He had heard of Zarathus, a planet locked in some kind of trade dispute with its neighbors. But why would transporting one princess cause such a reaction? She is too dangerous, someone shouted. Her very presence is a threat, another delegate called out. Ambassador Thalson, a slender being with silver skin, stood up. His voice cut through the noise. Colleagues, please. Princess Velshara is the key to these negotiations. Her father, King Vorthak, has agreed to peace terms, but only if his daughter can represent their interests. Without her, there is no deal. Then there is no deal. A squat, furry delegate said. I will not risk my crew to transport that weapon. Jake watched Lisa lean forward with interest. She caught the eye of her aide and whispered something. The aide nodded and began typing on a tablet. Oryx raised his staff again. Let me explain for those who do not know the full situation. The Zarathian people evolved a defense mechanism. Under stress, their bodies generate a powerful bioelectric charge. Contact with a stressed Zarathian can stop the heart of most species instantly. The chamber went quiet. Jake felt his own heartbeat quicken. That sounded bad. Princess Velshara has the strongest such ability ever recorded among her people, Oryx continued. She has been confined to isolation for most of her life after several incidents. 3 years ago, during an assassination attempt on Zarathus, she accidentally killed 2 of her own guards who tried to shield her. Then she is a killer, someone said. She is a victim. Thalson shot back. The princess cannot control this ability when frightened or under extreme stress. She poses no threat when calm. The problem is that she has received multiple death threats regarding these negotiations. Her stress levels are dangerously high. Oryx nodded gravely. We cannot use automated transport. There have been credible sabotage threats. She needs a living escort, someone who can protect her and keep her calm during the 3-day journey. But as you can see, every species has declined. Of course we decline, the reptilian delegate said. We value our lives. Find another solution. Sedate her. Perhaps. Sedation could kill her, a medical officer called out. Zarathian biology does not respond well to most tranquilizers. We could stop her heart trying to calm her down. The chamber filled with arguing voices again. Jake studied the holographic image that floated above the council floor. It showed a young woman with pale lavender skin and dark hair. She looked human enough, except for the faint silver patterns that traced along her neck and arms like lightning scars. But what struck Jake most was her expression. She looked terrified. Not threatening, her eyes were wide with fear, and she stood in what looked like a small, empty room. She looked scared, Jake muttered to Peter Collins, the officer standing next to him. Peter nodded. Wouldn't you be? Everyone thinks you're a monster. Jake frowned. Something about this whole situation bothered him. He had spent his childhood on Earth, in Montana, where bears, wolves, and mountain lions were real dangers. His grandfather taught him that most dangerous creatures only attacked when they felt threatened. The princess looked like someone who had been threatened her whole life. "We cannot abandon these negotiations," Oryx said firmly. "The Zarathian situation affects trade routes for half the galaxy. We need peace." "Then the Zarathians must send someone else," a delegate suggested. "Unacceptable," Thalsin said. "King Vorthak has made his position clear. His daughter represents the new generation of Zarathus. She is the future of their world. If we cannot guarantee her safe passage, we tell the Zarathians they are not welcome in civilized space." Lisa stood up smoothly. The chamber quieted to hear what the human ambassador would say. Humans were relatively new to galactic politics, but they had gained respect for their diplomatic skills. "Perhaps," Lisa said carefully, "we could review the medical data again. Are there any species with natural resistance to bioelectric shock? Quote, are we can use it ever 5. A medical officer pulled up a display. "Some species have minor resistance. None enough to matter against Princess Velshera's level of power. The discharge would still be fatal within seconds of contact." "What about humans?" Lisa asked. The medical officer looked surprised. "Humans? Let me check." He typed rapidly on his console. "Interesting. Humans have unusually high electrical resistance compared to most species. Something about your evolution on a high-static world with frequent lightning storms. Your cardiac tissue also has remarkable resilience." "But still fatal?" Lisa asked. "Almost certainly yes. Perhaps with humans, the princess would need 3 or 4 seconds of contact to kill rather than instant death. Not enough of a difference to matter." Jake made his decision before he really thought about it. He stepped forward from the security line, his boots echoing in the now quiet chamber. "I'll do it," he said clearly. Every head turned to look at him. Lisa's eyes went wide. Peter grabbed his arm, but Jake shook him off gently. "Lieutenant Morrison," Lisa said slowly, "I don't think you understand what you're volunteering for." "I understand fine, Ambassador," Jake said. He walked down the steps toward the council floor, aware of hundreds of eyes following him. "The princess needs an escort. I'll take her to Station Harmony." Oryx stared at him. "Young human, this is not a simple protection assignment. Physical contact with Princess Velshara while she is stressed will likely kill you." "Likely isn't definitely," Jake replied. He looked up at the hologram of Velshara. "Besides, someone needs to try. You said it yourself, Chancellor. These negotiations matter. If everyone is too afraid to help her, then she stays locked away forever." "That doesn't seem right. You would risk your life for a stranger?" Thalsin asked. Sounding amazed, Jake shrugged. "Where I come from, we learn to deal with dangerous things by facing them, not hiding. My grandfather used to say that most dangerous creatures only hurt you if they're scared. Maybe the princess just needs someone who isn't scared of her." "But you should be scared," the medical officer said. "This is not bravery. This is foolishness." "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but I'm still volunteering." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. Jake could see her running calculations in her head, weighing politics and risks. Finally, she nodded. "If Lieutenant Morrison volunteers, the human delegation supports this decision," she announced. Peter looked at Jake like he had lost his mind. Other security officers whispered among themselves. But Oryx studied Jake with his ancient eyes and slowly nodded. "Very well," the Chancellor said. "Lieutenant Jake Morrison of Earth will escort Princess Velshara to Station Harmony. May the ancestors watch over you, young human. You will need their protection." "Lieutenant Jake Morrison, of their protection." Jake nodded once, firmly. He looked up at the hologram again. The princess was staring at something off-screen, probably watching a broadcast of these proceedings. For just a moment, her frightened expression changed to something else. Hope, maybe, or disbelief. Jake hoped he had made the right choice. But either way, he had made it. In 3 days, he would meet the most feared woman in the galaxy. He just had to figure out how to keep them both alive. The medical bay smelled like antiseptic and fear. Jake sat on the examination table while 3 doctors attached monitoring equipment to his chest. Each sensor pad felt cold against his skin, and the lead doctor, a gray-skinned being named Krell, kept shaking his head. "This is madness," Krell muttered for the 5th time. "Complete madness." "You mentioned that already," Jake said calmly. "Can you just explain what these monitors do?" Krell sighed, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "This will track your heart rhythm. If the princess's bioelectric field affects you, we will know immediately. This emergency device here," he tapped a small cylinder attached to Jake's belt, "can deliver a cardiac restart. It might save your life if contact is brief." "Might?" Jake asked. "The princess's power is beyond anything we have treated before. Her discharge could fry your entire nervous system in seconds. The restart device assumes your heart is merely stopped, not destroyed." Peter sat in the corner, his head in his hands. "You can still back out, Jake. Nobody would blame you." "I would," Jake said simply. He had spent the last 6 hours reading everything available about Princess Velshera, and the more he learned, the more certain he became that someone needed to help her. Krell pulled up a holographic display. "Since you insist on this suicide mission, let me educate you properly. Princess Velshara was born 27 years ago. Her bioelectric ability manifested at age 7 during a nightmare. She accidentally killed her best friend who was sleeping nearby." Jake winced. She was just a kid. Indeed. After that incident, she was isolated. The Zarathian royal family built her a special wing of the palace with non-conductive materials. Her parents visit, but they wear protective gear. She has not felt another person's touch in 20 years. The weight of that statement settled over Jake like a heavy blanket. 20 years without a hug, without a handshake, without any physical contact. He tried to imagine it, and couldn't. Several suitors attempted to court her over the years, Krell continued. Zarathian males who thought they could handle her power. 3 died. The others were severely injured. She stopped allowing visitors after that. "So she has lived alone for 2 decades, Jake said quietly. "And now everyone wants her to travel across the galaxy to negotiate peace, while still treating her like a bomb that might explode." "She is dangerous," Krell insisted. "The medical data does not lie." "I read the data," Jake said. "Her power responds to stress and fear. When calm, she is perfectly safe. The problem is that everyone around her is terrified, which makes her more stressed, which makes her more dangerous. It's a cycle." Peter looked up. "So your plan is what? Not be afraid?" My plan is to treat her like a person, not a monster," Jake replied. "See how that works out." Krell finished attaching the monitors and stepped back. "You are either very brave or very stupid, Lieutenant Morrison." "Probably both," Jake admitted with a small smile. "Can I see her file again?" Krell pulled up the records. Jake had already memorized most of it, but he wanted to understand Velshara better. Beyond the medical data and incident reports, he found personal information. She studied xenobotany through virtual courses. She wrote poetry in her native language. She had requested books about other cultures and spent hours learning about worlds she would probably never visit. "She sounds lonely," Jake said. "She is the most isolated being in the galaxy," Krell agreed. "But that isolation keeps everyone else safe. Or maybe it just makes everyone feel better about abandoning her," Jake said. Later that evening, Jake stood in a communication room. Ambassador Lisa had arranged for him to speak with Princess Velshara through a secure holographic link before the journey. Jake was nervous, though he tried not to show it. The hologram flickered to life, and Princess Velshara appeared before him. She stood in a small, bare room with white walls. She wore a simple gray dress, and the silver patterns on her skin seemed to glow faintly. Her dark eyes studied him with a mixture of curiosity and sadness. "Lieutenant Morrison," she said. Her voice was soft, musical. "You are the human who volunteered." "Yes, ma'am," Jake said. Please, call me Jake. She tilted her head slightly. Why did you volunteer, Jake? Do you not understand what I am? I understand that you are a princess who needs to get to Station Harmony, Jake said. And that everyone else is too scared to help you. That seems wrong to me. 1. Velshara laughed. But it was a bitter sound. Too scared. Yes. That is accurate. They should be scared. I have killed people. Jake. Good people who only tried to protect me. I read about those incidents, Jake said gently. You were attacked. Your body responded automatically. That is not the same as murder. Tell that to their families, she whispered. She turned away from him, hugging herself. You should withdraw your offer. I do not want another death on my conscience. Especially not someone who volunteered to help me. I'm not withdrawing, Jake said firmly. We leave in 2 days. I wanted to talk to you first. Get to know you a little. She turned back, surprise clear on her face. Get to know me? Why? Because we will be traveling together for 3 days, Jake said. Seems like we should at least be friendly. Tell me, what do you like to do? I saw in your file that you study plants. Velshara stared at him like he had spoken in a language she didn't understand. You want to talk about my hobbies? Sure, I grow tomatoes back home. Well, I did before I took this assignment. My mother tends them now. Do you have a favorite plant? She blinked several times. I like the silver fern from Theta Prime. It grows in low light and produces beautiful blue flowers once a year. I have never seen one in person. Only through video feeds. But I have studied them extensively. Arend, that sounds pretty, Jake said. What else do you like? I write poetry, she admitted. And I read history. I particularly enjoy learning about Earth. Your planet has such a violent past. But your people survived and built something remarkable, Jake smiled. Earth definitely tried to kill us a few times. We are stubborn, though. Refuse to die. I read about your dinosaurs and ice ages and plagues, Velshara said. A small smile touched her lips for the first time. Your species should not have survived, statistically speaking. But we did. Maybe that is why I am not as scared as everyone else. Humans got used to dealing with dangerous situations. Velshara's smile faded. But you should be scared of me, Jake. I am not a bear or a storm. I am a person who cannot control her own body. When I am frightened, I kill. How can you possibly stay calm around me? Jake thought about that for a moment. My grandfather taught me something when I was young. He said that most dangerous animals only attack when they feel threatened. The trick is to not be the threat. To move slowly, speak calmly, and show you mean no harm. I am not an animal, Velshara said, but without anger. No, you are not, Jake agreed. You are a woman who has been treated like a monster for most of your life. That is not the same thing. I figure if I treat you with respect and kindness, maybe you won't feel threatened. Maybe your body will stay calm. Velshara sat down on the single chair in her room. She looked exhausted. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is simple, Jake said. Maybe everyone has just been thinking about it wrong. They focus on the danger. But what if we focus on the person instead? That is a nice thought, she said quietly. But thoughts do not change biology. My power has killed before. It will kill again. Not if we are careful, Jake said. Not if we work together. I have been fitted with monitoring equipment. If your field starts affecting me, we will know immediately. We can maintain distance when you are stressed, but Velshara, you cannot live in isolation forever. At some point, you have to try. She looked at him for a long moment. You are either very kind or very naive, Jake Morrison. Probably both, Jake said, echoing what he told Krell earlier. But I meant what I said. I will get you to Station Harmony safely. Both of us will survive this journey. How can you promise that? Because I am too stubborn to die, Jake said with a grin. Earth tried to kill humans for millions of years. We are still here. One princess is not going to be what finally does us in. Velshara laughed, a real laugh this time. It transformed her face, making her look younger and less burdened. You are very strange, Jake Morrison. I get that a lot, he admitted. Look, I know you are scared. I would be too in your situation. But you are not alone anymore. Not for these next few days, at least. We will figure this out together. She stood up, moving closer to the holographic projector. Thank you, she whispered. No one has ever spoken to me like this. Like I am just a person. You are just a person, Jake said. A person in a difficult situation, but still a person. Don't forget that. The hologram flickered. My time is ending, Velshara said. Jake, please reconsider. I could not bear it if you died because of me. I won't die, Jake said confidently. See you in 2 days, princess. The hologram vanished. Jake stood alone in the communication room, his heart pounding. He had meant what he said. He would get her to Station Harmony safely. He just hoped his confidence was not misplaced. The royal palace of Zarathis gleamed like a purple jewel under the morning sun. Jake stood in the main courtyard, watching servants hurry past with last-minute supplies for the journey. Peter checked the shuttle systems for the 3rd time, his nervous energy obvious to anyone watching. King Vorthok approached Jake slowly. The Zarathian king was tall and dignified, with silver patterns covering most of his lavender skin. His eyes held deep sadness, mixed with desperate hope. Lieutenant Morrison, the king said formally. Words cannot express my gratitude for what you are attempting. Just doing my job, Your Majesty, Jake replied. No. Vorthok shook his head. Your job was to provide security. You volunteered for this. That is different. He paused, struggling with emotion. I have not touched my daughter in 20 years. I wear gloves when I visit her. I stand behind barriers. I love her, but I fear her. I am her father, and I fear my own child. Jake didn't know what to say to that kind of pain. You show more courage than I ever have. Vorthok continued. I am offering you wealth beyond measure. Land, titles, technology. Name your price. I don't want payment, Jake said firmly. Your daughter deserves help. That should be reason enough. Vorthok studied him with ancient eyes. Humans are strange creatures. The galaxy does not yet understand what you will become. Before Jake could respond, a door opened across the courtyard. 2 guards in full protective suits emerged first, followed by Princess Velshara. She wore a simple traveling outfit in deep blue, and she walked with her head down, arms wrapped around herself. She looked small and vulnerable, not like the dangerous weapon everyone feared. Jake started toward her, but Vorthok caught his arm. Wait. I must see her first. The king approached his daughter slowly. They stood 3 feet apart, an unbridgeable distance. Velshara looked up at her father with tears in her eyes. Be safe, my daughter, Vorthok said softly. Make our people proud. I will try, father, she whispered. They stood there for another moment, 2 people who loved each other but could never touch. Then Velshara turned and walked toward the shuttle. Jake followed, giving the king privacy for his grief. Inside the shuttle, Velshara moved to the back compartment. It had been specially modified with non-conductive walls and an energy barrier that could be activated if needed. She sat on the single seat and stared at her hands. Jake stopped at the barrier controls but didn't activate them. Do you want the barrier up? Do you want the barrier up? She looked surprised. You are leaving it down? Unless you want it up? Jake said. I figure we should try to trust each other. Trust, she repeated, like the word was foreign. Lieutenant Morrison, I have studied human psychology. I know you are trying to make me feel comfortable. But please, activate the barrier. For your own safety. Jake, he corrected, and no, I don't think I will. We talked about this, remember? We are going to do this differently. Peter called from the cockpit. Jake, we are cleared for departure. Get strapped in. Jake sat in a seat across from Velshara, leaving about 6 feet between them. He fastened his safety harness and smiled at her. Ready for your first real journey off-planet? She stared at him. You are insane. Probably, Jake agreed cheerfully. But I am also your escort. So you are stuck with me. The shuttle lifted smoothly, climbing through Zarathus's purple sky. Velshara gripped her seat, watching through the viewport as her world fell away below. For someone who had spent 2 decades in one room, this had to be overwhelming. Tell me about that silver fern you like, Jake said, trying to distract her. What? She turned to him, confused. The plant from Theta Prime. You said it has blue flowers. Does it need special soil? Velshara blinked several times. You remembered that? Of course. I am curious about it. She relaxed slightly, her hands unclenching. It grows in volcanic soil, actually. The high mineral content provides nutrients most plants cannot process. The flowers bloom only once per year, for exactly 3 days. Sounds delicate, Jake said. It is one of the hardiest plants in the galaxy, Velshara corrected. It survives temperature extremes, radiation, and drought. The delicate flowers are deceptive. The plant itself is nearly indestructible. Sounds like someone I know, Jake said with a meaningful look. Velshara's cheeks darkened with a blush. I am not hardy. I am dangerous. You can be both, Jake pointed out. Earth has plenty of dangerous, hardy things. They don't stop being valuable just because they're risky. They talked for another hour as the shuttle entered deep space. Jake asked questions about her studies, her poetry, her favorite books. Velshara answered hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. She seemed amazed that someone wanted to know about her interests, rather than her abilities. Peter called back from the cockpit. Making good time. We should reach the first waypoint in 3 hours. Great, Jake replied. He stood up and moved toward the small storage area. I'm going to grab some water. Want some? Yes, please, Velshara said. Jake retrieved 2 containers of water and turned to hand one to Velshara. But to do so, he would have to cross the space between them. She realized this at the same moment and shrank back. Just leave it there, she said quickly. I will get it when you move away. Velshara, Jake said gently. We cannot spend 3 days afraid to hand each other water. I could kill you, she whispered. You could, Jake agreed. But you won't. You are calm right now. I can see it. Your stress levels are low. He had been monitoring her all morning through the subtle signs Krell taught him. Her breathing was steady, her hands relaxed, her silver patterns dim. Please don't, she begged. Jake walked slowly toward her, holding out the water. I trust you. You shouldn't, she said, but she didn't move away. Jake stopped 2 feet from her. Take the water, Velshara. She reached out with a shaking hand. Their fingers brushed as she took the container. A tiny spark jumped between them, barely visible. Jake felt a slight tingle. Nothing more. His heart monitor beeped once, then steadied. Velshara pulled back quickly, horror on her face. Your monitor alarmed. It was just a tiny fluctuation, Jake said, sitting down calmly. See? I'm fine. You are fine. We can do this. She stared at the water container in her hands like it was made of gold. You touched me. Just a little, Jake said with a smile. First contact successful, I would say. Tears filled her eyes. Do you understand? That was the first time in 20 years that someone has touched me without protective gear. The first time I have felt another person's skin. The weight of that statement hit Jake hard. Then I am honored to be that person. Velshara wiped her eyes, smiling through tears. You are the strangest man I have ever met. Jake Morrison. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking their water. Peter called back updates from the cockpit occasionally. The journey seemed to be going well. Too well, Jake thought. He had reviewed the sabotage threats, and something bothered him about the timing. 3 hours into the flight, alarms suddenly blared throughout the shuttle. Peter cursed from the cockpit. We have a problem. Multiple systems failing. Jake rushed forward. What is happening? Someone sabotaged the navigation and life support systems, Peter said, his fingers flying over the controls. The sabotage just activated. We are being pulled toward that asteroid field. Jake's blood ran cold. Behind him, he heard Velshara gasp. He turned to see her standing, her eyes wide with fear. The silver patterns on her skin began to glow brighter. Velshara, stay calm, Jake said firmly. Someone is trying to kill us, she said, her voice rising. This is because of me. They want me dead. The glow intensified. Small sparks jumped between her fingers. Jake's monitoring equipment started beeping faster. Peter, how long to fix this? Jake called. 5 minutes if I can reroute the systems manually, Peter shouted back. Maybe longer. 5 minutes. Jake looked at Velshara, saw her panic rising. Her power was building in response to her fear. Equipment around her started sparking. If she lost control, she could fry all the shuttle systems, killing them all. Jake made a decision. He walked toward her. Stay back, Velshara cried. I cannot control it. I am too scared. I know. Jake said calmly. That is why I am coming closer. You need someone to ground you. Literally. He reached out his hand. Velshara stared at it in horror. Take my hand, Jake said. Let me help you. I will kill you, she sobbed. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe you will trust me enough to stay in control. Either way, we are in this together. The shuttle lurched as it hit the edge of the asteroid field. Velshara stumbled forward. Without thinking, Jake caught her. The electric shock hit him like a physical blow. His heart stuttered. His muscles locked. And pain exploded through his nervous system. The monitoring equipment screamed warnings. Peter shouted his name, but Jake didn't let go. Breathe, he told Velshara through clenched teeth. Breathe with me, in and out. Focus on my voice. She was crying, trying to pull away. But he held on. I am killing you, she wailed. Not yet, Jake gasped. Keep breathing. You are stronger than your fear. Show me. His vision started to blur. But he kept talking. Kept breathing in the pattern his grandfather taught him for staying calm. Slowly, impossibly, Velshara's breathing started to match his. The electric surge began to weaken. That is it, Jake whispered. You are in control. Not your power. You. The glow faded gradually. The pain lessened. Jake's heart began beating normally again. He was still holding Velshara's arms, and she was staring at him with amazement. I didn't kill you, she breathed. Told you, Jake said with a weak smile. Then his legs gave out, and everything went dark. Jake woke to the sound of soft crying. His chest ached. His muscles felt like they had been beaten with hammers, and his mouth tasted like metal, but he was alive. He opened his eyes slowly. The shuttle was steady now, no longer lurching through asteroid fields. Velshara sat against the far wall, her knees pulled to her chest, tears streaming down her face. When she saw him move, she gasped. Jake, she whispered. You are awake. How long was I out? His voice came out rough. 17 minutes, Peter called from the cockpit. Your heart stopped twice. The emergency device restarted it both times. Do you have any idea how stupid that was? Pretty stupid, Jake admitted, sitting up slowly. Every movement hurt. Did you fix the navigation? Yes, we are back on course. And you almost died. You insane human. Jake looked at Velshara. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Horror, amazement, guilt, all mixed together. You held on, she said. You knew I was killing you, and you held on anyway. You needed help, Jake said simply. Besides, I told you I am too stubborn to die. Your heart stopped, she said. Twice. That is dying. But I came back, so technically, I kept my promise. We are both still alive. Peter appeared in the doorway, looking pale. Jake. She is right. You should be dead. No one survives that level of exposure. Humans are harder to kill than most species think, Jake said. He tried to stand, but his legs wobbled. Velshara moved to help him, then stopped herself, afraid to touch him again. It is okay, Jake said. I am fine now. Really. She shook her head. No. I almost murdered you. I felt it happening. I felt my power draining your life, and I couldn't stop it fast enough. But you did stop it, Jake pointed out. That is what matters. You controlled your power under the worst possible stress. Do you understand how important that is? I nearly killed you, she repeated stubbornly. Jake moved toward her carefully. She backed away until she hit the wall. Velshara, listen to me. Yes, I got hurt. But I am alive because you learned to control your power. For 20 years, everyone told you it was impossible. They said you were too dangerous, too unstable. You just proved them all wrong. At what cost? She whispered. You stopped breathing for me, Jake. You let your heart stop. And I would do it again, Jake said firmly. Because now, we know. You can control this. You are not helpless. You are not just a weapon. You are a woman with an ability you can learn to manage. Velshara slid down the wall, sitting on the floor. Why are you not angry with me? Because you didn't hurt me on purpose, Jake said. He sat down near her, leaving a safe distance. You were terrified. Someone sabotaged our shuttle, trying to kill us. Your body responded to protect you. That is biology, not murder. Peter leaned against the doorframe. He has a point, though I still think you are both crazy. I am going to check our systems again. Try not to die while I am gone. He disappeared back into the cockpit. Jake and Velshara sat in silence for a moment. Then, Jake remembered the sabotage. Someone did this on purpose. They wanted us to crash. They wanted me to lose control. Velshara said bitterly. Think about it. If I had killed you and Peter while panicking, everyone would say I am too dangerous. The peace talks would collapse. Zarathus would remain isolated. Jake frowned. Who benefits from that? Many people. Velshara looked at him with tired eyes. There are trade companies that profit from our isolation. Political factions that use us as an example of why some species should not join the council. Even some Zarathian nobles who prefer our old ways. We need evidence, Jake said. He stood up, ignoring his protesting muscles, and went to the shuttle's computer system. Peter, can you pull up the sabotage code? Already on it, Peter called back. And Jake, you need to see this. Jake moved to the cockpit. Peter had isolated the sabotage program on his screen. It was sophisticated, designed to activate only after they reached deep space where rescue would be impossible. Look at the signature, Peter said, pointing. This code originated from within the Galactic Council network. Someone with high-level access planted it. Jake felt cold anger building. They were willing to kill 3 people to stop these peace talks. At least 3, Peter corrected. If we had crashed in that asteroid field, the debris would have made investigation difficult. They could have claimed it was an accident, or blamed the princess for losing control. Jake thought about Velshara, isolated for 20 years, and now being used as a political pawn. Record everything, every piece of evidence. Send encrypted copies to Ambassador Grant. Already done, Peter said. She replied, she is bringing this to High Chancellor Oryx immediately. Jake returned to the passenger compartment. Velshara was standing now, looking out the viewport at the stars. She seemed small and alone despite being dangerous enough to kill with a touch. They tried to make me the villain, she said quietly. Again, but they failed. Jake replied. Because you stayed in control. Because you are stronger than they gave you credit for. She turned to face him. I am tired, Jake. Tired of being feared. Tired of being alone. tired of being used as an excuse for hatred. Her voice broke. For 20 years, I believed I was the monster they said I was. I stayed in my room. I didn't argue. I accepted my isolation as necessary. And now? Jake asked gently. Now I am angry, she said, and her silver patterns flared slightly. I am angry at the people who sabotaged us. I am angry at every politician who used my condition to justify prejudice. I am angry at a galaxy that saw a scared child and decided she was better off locked away. Jake smiled. Good. Use that anger. Show them they were wrong about you. Velshara moved closer to him, stopping about 3 feet away. You really believe I can change things? I know you can, Jake said. You already changed my mind. I thought this mission was about protecting you, but you protected me today. You controlled your power when it mattered most. If you can do that under crisis, imagine what you can do with practice. She looked at her hands, watching the silver patterns pulse gently. What if I fail at the negotiations? What if I lose control in front of everyone? Then we deal with it, Jake said. But I don't think you will fail. Want to know why? Why? Because you care too much, Jake said. About your people. About these peace talks. About not hurting anyone else. That kind of compassion is strength, not weakness. Velshara was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Jake, I need to practice. Controlling my power, I mean. Will you help me? Of course. It will be dangerous, she warned. I might hurt you again. Probably, Jake agreed. But I heal fast. And you need to learn control before we reach station harmony. They spent the next several hours working together. Velshara practiced regulating her bioelectric field, while Jake monitored his equipment. They started with simple exercises like controlled breathing and meditation. Then they tried something harder. Hold out your hand, Jake instructed. Jake, no, trust me. We will go slow. Velshara extended her hand, trembling. Jake reached toward her, stopping an inch away. He could feel the energy radiating from her skin. A warm tingle in the air. Now focus on pulling that energy back, Jake said. Imagine it flowing into your core instead of outward. She closed her eyes, concentrating. The tingle in the air decreased. Jake moved his hand closer, half an inch away. Still safe. Good, he encouraged. You are doing great. They practiced for hours, gradually building her confidence. By the time they stopped for rest, Velshara could maintain control of her field even while stressed or tired. She was exhausted but smiling. I did it, she said in wonder. I actually controlled it. You did, Jake confirmed. His monitoring equipment had barely alarmed all session. Velshara, you are ready for those negotiations. You are ready to show the galaxy who you really are. She looked at him with something like hope shining in her eyes. I could not have done this without you. Yes, you could have, Jake said. You had the strength all along. You just needed someone to believe in you first, Peter called from the cockpit. Approaching station harmony. Arrival in 6 hours. You two might want to rest, Jake nodded. Good idea. Big day tomorrow. Velshara sat down, still smiling slightly. Jake, when this is over, what will you do? Go back to my regular job, I suppose, Jake said. Provide security for other diplomatic missions. Will I see you again? Jake looked at her. This woman who had been called a monster, who had been isolated and feared, who had just proven she was so much more than her power. I hope so, he said sincerely. I would like to see how those peace talks turn out. Maybe even see you succeed. Then I will make sure to succeed, Velshara said softly. For my people, for everyone who believed I was only dangerous, and for the strange human who saw past the monster to find me. Jake smiled and settled in for rest. Tomorrow, they would arrive at Station Harmony. Tomorrow, Princess Velshara would show the galaxy that fear and prejudice could be overcome, and Jake would be there to watch her prove everyone wrong. Station Harmony looked like a silver wheel spinning slowly in space. Jake watched through the viewport as their shuttle approached the docking bay. Beside him, Velshara sat very still, her hands folded in her lap. She had barely spoken during the final hours of their journey. "Nervous?" Jake asked quietly. "Terrified," she admitted. "What if I fail? What if I lose control in front of everyone?" "You won't," Jake said with confidence. "You have been controlling your power for the last day without any problems. You are ready for this." Peter maneuvered the shuttle into the docking bay with practiced skill. Through the windows, Jake could see security teams waiting. Along with several important-looking delegates, news drones floated nearby, recording everything. "Big welcoming committee," Peter muttered. "Half of them are probably hoping we show up dead." "Peter," Jake said warningly. "What?" "It is true. A lot of people bet against us surviving." Velshara smiled slightly despite her fear. "Then we will prove them wrong." Again, the shuttle settled onto the landing pad with a soft thump. Jake stood and offered his hand to Velshara. She looked at it for a moment, then took it carefully. A tiny spark jumped between them. But nothing more. She was maintaining perfect control. "See?" Jake said. "Easy." They walked to the exit ramp together. The doors opened, and bright lights flooded in from the docking bay. Jake heard the hum of recording devices and the murmur of watching crowds. He squeezed Velshara's hand gently, then released it. "Remember," he said softly, "you are not a monster. You are a princess who came here to make peace." Velshara lifted her chin and walked down the ramp. Jake followed 2 steps behind, his hand near his weapon but relaxed. Ambassador Lisa waited at the bottom, along with High Chancellor Oryx and several other council members. Their expressions ranged from surprised to suspicious. "Princess Velshara," Oryx said formally, "welcome to Station Harmony. We are pleased to see you arrived safely." "Thank you, Chancellor," Velshara replied, her voice steady. "I am grateful for Lieutenant Morrison's escort. He proved that courage exists even in a fearful galaxy." Lisa smiled at Jake, pride clear in her eyes. But not everyone looked pleased. A heavy-set delegate named Councillor Bram pushed forward. His face twisted with suspicion. "How do we know this journey was safe?" Bram demanded. "How do we know the princess did not harm the lieutenant? Humans are known for their stubbornness. Perhaps he simply survived what should have killed him." "I have the medical records," Jake said calmly. "Princess Velshara maintained control throughout our journey. Except when your heart stopped twice," another delegate called out. "We received reports of the incident." The crowd murmured. Velshara's composure wavered slightly. Jake saw her hands tremble. "That incident," Lisa cut in sharply, "was caused by sabotage. Someone deliberately tampered with the shuttle systems to create a crisis. We have evidence that the sabotage originated from within this station's council network." The murmuring grew louder. Oryx raised his staff for silence. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador Grant." "With serious evidence," Lisa replied. She activated a holographic display showing the sabotage code. "This signature belongs to someone with high-level council access. Someone who wanted Princess Velshara's journey to fail." Bram's face turned purple. "This is outrageous. Are you accusing council members of attempted murder?" "I am stating facts," Lisa said coldly. 3 people nearly died because someone wanted these peace talks to fail. The question is, who benefits from continued Zarathian isolation? The crowd erupted into arguments. Jake stayed close to Velshara, watching for threats. She stood rigid, her silver patterns beginning to glow faintly as stress built. "This proves nothing," Bram shouted above the noise. "The princess is still dangerous. Her very presence here puts everyone at risk. Look at her. She is glowing right now. She could kill us all." Velshara flinched as if struck. The glow intensified slightly. Jake saw her control slipping as decades of accusations and fear crashed down on her. He stepped closer. "Velshara," he said quietly, "just for her. Breathe. Remember what we practiced." "They all hate me," she whispered. "They will always hate me." "Some of them, maybe," Jake admitted, "but not all. Show them who you really are." Oryx slammed his staff down hard. Enough! This council chamber has become chaos. We will reconvene in 1 hour to discuss these accusations properly. He turned to Velshara. Princess, you will be escorted to secure quarters until the negotiations begin. No, Velshara said suddenly. Her voice rang clear through the bay. No more hiding. No more isolation. I will speak now. The crowd went silent. Velshara stepped forward, away from Jake's protective presence. Her silver patterns glowed brightly, but her posture was strong and determined. For 20 years, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the bay, I have been called a monster. A weapon. Too dangerous to touch. Too unstable to trust. I believed these things about myself. I stayed in my room. I accepted my isolation because everyone told me it was necessary. She held up her hands, showing the pulsing silver patterns. Yes, I am dangerous. My people evolved a defense mechanism that can kill. But I am also a person. A woman who loves poetry and plants. A daughter who misses her parents. A princess who wants peace for her people. Pretty words, Bram sneered. But words do not change biology. You are still a threat. Then I will prove otherwise, Velshara said. She turned to Jake. Lieutenant Morrison, would you please come here? Jake walked forward without hesitation. He knew what she was asking, and he trusted her completely. This man volunteered to escort me when every other species refused. Velshara continued. He risked his life not once, but repeatedly. He treated me with kindness and respect when I had known only fear and isolation. And he helped me learn something important. She extended her hand to Jake. He took it firmly. The silver patterns on her skin flared bright, visible energy crackling between their joined hands. The crowd gasped. Monitoring equipment showed Jake's vital signs, broadcasting them on a large display. His heart rate increased slightly but remained steady. No dangerous spikes, no cardiac distress. Control, Velshara said clearly. I can control my power. When I am calm, when I am not treated like a monster, my ability responds to my will. Watch. She and Jake walked slowly around the open space. The energy field between them remained visible, but controlled. Contained. Jake's monitors showed stable readings throughout. After a full circle, they stopped back at the center. For 20 years, everyone assumed I was helpless, Velshara said, releasing Jake's hand. They assumed my power controlled me. But Lieutenant Morrison believed something different. He believed I could learn control if given the chance. He was right. The crowd stood in stunned silence. Even Bram seemed at a loss for words. Ambassador Thalson stepped forward, his silver skin gleaming. Princess Velshara, this is remarkable. How did you achieve such control? With practice, patience, and someone who believed in me, Velshara said simply. She looked at Jake with gratitude. Lieutenant Morrison showed me that I am not defined by fear. Mine or others. I am defined by my choices. Oryx studied her thoughtfully. You understand what this means? If you can control your abilities, you are no longer a victim of your biology. You are responsible for your actions. I understand, Velshara said firmly. And I accept that responsibility. I want to represent my people in these negotiations, not as a dangerous creature to be feared, but as an equal member of the galactic community. This changes things, Lisa said, looking around at the other delegates. It also raises questions about the sabotage. If someone knew Princess Velshara could learn control, they might have tried to prevent her from reaching this station. Bram looked increasingly uncomfortable. That is speculation. Is it? Lisa pulled up more data. Counselor Bram, your family owns significant shares in the trade companies that profit from Zarathian isolation. You voted against every peace proposal. And your security clearance matches the signature on the sabotage code. The guards moved toward Bram immediately. He tried to run but was quickly surrounded. As they led him away, he shouted, You are all fools. The Zarathians will never integrate. This princess is an anomaly. No, Velshara said quietly, but her voice carried. I am the future. And my people will not be isolated anymore. The next few hours passed in a blur of debriefings and medical examinations. Jake was checked thoroughly by doctors who marveled at his survival. Velshera underwent testing that confirmed her control over her abilities. Slowly, the station's atmosphere changed, from fear to cautious respect. 3 months later, Jake stood in the observation gallery watching the council chamber below. Velshara sat at the Zarathian delegation table, speaking eloquently about trade agreements. She wore the formal robes of an ambassador now, and her confidence had grown tremendously. She is doing well, Lisa said, joining him at the window. The negotiations are ahead of schedule. Several other species have approached Zarathus about cultural exchanges. That is good, Jake said. He watched Velshara laugh at something another delegate said. She looked happy, finally. You know she requested your permanent assignment as security liaison to her delegation, Lisa said with a knowing smile. Jake felt warmth spread through his chest. Did she? She did. And I approved it. You earned this, Jake. You saw past fear to help someone everyone else had abandoned. That is exactly the kind of courage humanity should represent. Below, Velshara looked up at the observation gallery. She caught Jake's eye and smiled. He smiled back and gave her a small wave. The galaxy is learning, Lisa continued. Other species are reconsidering their prejudices. All because one human decided to step forward when everyone else stepped back. Jake shook his head. It was not just me. Velshara did the hard work. She faced her fears and proved she was more than what others believed. True, Lisa agreed, but she could not have done it alone. Sometimes, the bravest thing is not facing danger yourself, but helping someone else find their courage. Jake watched Velshara return to her negotiations, strong and confident. She was no longer the frightened woman he met weeks ago. She was a leader, a bridge between her people and the galaxy, and he had been honored to help her find that strength. The galaxy had feared Princess Velshara for 20 years. Now they respected her. And that, Jake thought, was worth every risk he had taken. Because sometimes, stepping forward when others stepped back was exactly what the universe needed.